Could this change the internet computer moving forward? Nothing I say is financial advice, and I'm aware that as of right now, it is still over 30 times lower than $100. However, at the same time, Dfinity, they made a post, right, talking about their milestones in 2025, and I think they actually highlighted something that seems to me, at least, to be pretty impressive, and I think could change it moving forward in a fundamental standpoint of view. Because remember a few months ago, when the replicated storage capacity on ICP went from 1 terabyte to 2 terabytes, so basically doubled. Keep in mind, right, when it comes to a terabyte, it's supposedly 1.1 trillion bytes approximately. So you got to think about that. Now, people may be thinking, like, who cares about that? Well, more storage, can't more things be done? Like, for instance, apparently more room for applications, more workload, and larger scale. How can that not hypothetically change something like this? If anything, it could change it moving forward fundamentally, because now there's more room to do things. You know what I mean? It's like getting an iPhone with the biggest memory, right? It's a little bit different in some cases. Like, the iPhone 17 Pro Max with like 2 terabytes or something like that. You know what I mean? It's just a little bit of a different case. More capacity. This is the way to take a look at it. It's like an EV normal range versus the long range, right? It's a little bit of a different thing. Road trips, they're not going to be as cumbersome, more range, less stops, basically. Besides that point, though, when it comes to the internet computer, this is why I'm a fan of what Dfinity is doing, because the thing is this, 1 terabyte is already a lot, you know what I mean? For a lot of project standards out there, that is already a lot in the grand scheme of things. But the internet computer, I guess Dfinity has bigger visions than just 1 terabyte. So now 2 terabytes, that's their new thing. So the thing is, the internet computer, it wasn't like it was lacking in terms of storage. A lot of people already talked about how impressive it was in that category. But Dfinity a couple of months ago was like, you know what? Nah, we're going to make it double. It's like, what? Okay, sure, it didn't really do much when it comes to ICP, granted, but at the same time, we have to consider the implications that this could have moving forward when it comes to developers, right? When it comes to handling more workload, having scalability. Arguably, I think maybe even in that case, it could be argued. So this is a stark contrast to some other projects out there that achieve something, and they're like, yeah, that's good enough. We don't really need to do more. The internet computer, it's already up here. But Dfinity is like, you know what? We got to do something. We got to improve. So I'm surprised when it comes to this, because a couple months ago, even I talked about it, right? I was even pretty surprised because I thought that it was already pretty okay. Why would they double that? But then the more I thought about it, I was like, why would that be a bad thing? Some people like to say, oh, it's a complete waste of resources doing this. Well, why? If the capacity is doubled, I don't think that is a bad thing. Like, how would that be a bad thing? I just don't get it. It's like, for instance, if, I got like a 1 terabyte iPhone to a 2 terabyte, like, why would I complain? It just doesn't make any sense to me. But besides that point, when I take a look at the internet computer, though, people like to say, oh, wow, with this recent recovery, ICP is just around $3 because it hasn't really done much, right? But at the same time, throughout these times that ICP was kind of not really doing much, Dfinity, they kept on building, they kept on doing something. So we have to kind of consider sometimes, what could that be later on moving forward, right? Because the longer this goes on, the longer there's no altcoin season, for some projects, it could actually work towards them, because we have to consider some projects out there are continuing to build. A longer wait time sometimes equals not such a bad thing for some projects out there, because in order to do things, sometimes there needs to be some time, right? So this is why when it comes to the case of Dfinity, when it comes to the internet computer, a longer wait time doesn't necessarily mean it's such a bad thing, in my perspective, in some cases, because they're actually building. Some other projects out there, they're not really doing much. So a longer wait time is just like basically seeing something and just being very bored, right? Because nothing's going on, they're not updating, they're not doing anything, but then at the same time, it's still like a long wait time. It's like, wow, right? It's just very boring. But in this case, at least they're doing something. So I do like seeing that. And keep in mind, in around 3 weeks, there's going to be the World Computer Day event, which some people even still as of right now don't really consider to be anything significant, but we have to consider. With all the fundamental improvements that has happened for the internet computer, what could that do, right? When it comes to, let's say, a sort of, event later on in January 20th in Switzerland, in which supposedly the World Computer Day event is going to happen. But now there's more things to talk about, right? More things to discuss. Also, the speakers, when it comes to the event, they can actually talk about more things when it comes to your computer. They can talk about more things when it comes to Dfinity. As opposed to before, it wasn't like it was lacking in terms of what to talk about, but at least now there's more things to talk about as opposed to before. And as of right now, when it comes to Caffeine AI, it hasn't really had much updates, right? But at least to me, just the idea of even doing something like that in the first place seemed pretty impressive. Not many projects out there would have used the resources, the time, the capital to do something like that. A self-writing apps platform that people may not even really use that much. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see long term when it comes to mass scale adoption, right? But Dfinity, they're doing it anyways, regardless of, first of all, the timing, because clearly ICP was not doing the best. And also on top of that, we take a look at just the sort of ambiguity, right? Sort of the vague nature of something like that, in which case we don't know what could happen. It could have not good adoption, it could have good adoption. But they did it anyways, and I think that's the mindset that they have. They strive for, let's say, improvements, right? For the fundamentals. This is why I am a fan when it comes to what Dfinity is doing. And is ICP ever going to be like top 5 or something like that? For this cycle? Nah, I don't think so. But it doesn't need to. It doesn't really need to, in my perspective. I mean, okay, when it comes to ICP, it's ranked like 46th as of right now, but it doesn't need to be top 5. Like, that's reserved for some very few projects, right? I mean, there's only 5, you know? It doesn't need that, in my perspective. And why would it? Like, okay, as of right now, ICP is down, but is that necessarily such a bad thing? It's over 30 times lower than $100. Bitcoin's not over 30 times lower than 200 grand, let alone 300. Ethereum's not over 30 times lower than 10 grand. Now, this is all just my perspective, but I'm just saying. Like, BNB is not over 30 times lower than its all-time high, right? But this is just, again, the way I take a look at this situation. It doesn't mean that ICP could do anything, because only time will tell when it comes to an altcoin season, if we do ever even see one this year. We'll have to wait and see, but I'm just saying, at $100, we're talking about a market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply at around 54 billion. That's, first of all, it's not going to break any records, but wasn't BNB even over 100 billion at one point in terms of market cap? And I'm not talking about like what it did during the cycle in which it reached a new all-time high. I'm just talking about what it did years ago in 2021, in which it did reach over 100 billion in terms of market cap that year. And as of right now, there's over 600 million owners within this space. Back then, in 2021, even during the peak of that time, that cycle, I should say, there was around 300 million. With around 300 million owners within this space, the altcoin season looked like that back then? Imagine if back then there was like over 600 million owners. What would that altcoin season look like? Granted, there's more competition as of right now. I'm totally aware of that. But is there really that much more competitors that actually have good fundamentals? I see a lot of memes, right? But when it comes to actual quality projects that have those sort of world-class fundamentals, I don't see that many of them appear. Like, the main players, if I take a look at it, of course, there's still Ethereum, there's BNB, Chainlink, Solana, right? We take a look at Stellar, we take a look at, just not like hundreds upon hundreds of projects that are like that. There's still kind of few, in my perspective, like a Polkadot, for instance. It's not like the competition when it comes to the computer just grew by a massive amount in terms of quality. It grew a bit, but it's not too much in terms of quality. Now, in terms of just pure quantity, yeah, okay, then there's way more competitors when compared to back then. But I'm saying in terms of the quality ones, in terms of the ones that can actually compete, it's not like that much of a drastic increase when compared to years ago. Because making a project sometimes doesn't seem that difficult. But the difficult thing is making one that actually has a good use case. You know what I mean? It's like, for instance, I could just get a sewing machine and randomly try to make a t-shirt. Is it going to be good? Absolutely not. I don't know how to do that, right? But I'm just saying, I could try though, right? I could just say, oh, it's a t-shirt, but then like the dimensions are off and then I'm not stitching it properly. You know what I mean? Like making a t-shirt doesn't seem to be the difficult part. The difficult part seems to be making something that's quality, right? There's many car brands out there, but how many are actually good quality? You know what I mean? And the thing is, even making a car sometimes is pretty difficult because we have to consider the research, the resources, the capital needed, the time, right? The effort. And still, there's not that many like premium car brands out there. Like, what was a premium car brand like 20 or 30 years ago? Rolls-Royce. Rolls-Royce is still premium right now. You know what I mean? Like, the thing is there drastically like 200 more of Rolls-Royce, like in terms of the brand quality? I don't think so when compared to back then. Sure, there's some that popped up, but it's not like there's drastically way more. And when it comes to this space, it just kind of gives me that vibe. In 2021, yes, fewer projects, fewer competition, or should I say less competition than right now. But in terms of the quality, we have to consider what was more. Sure, right now is a little bit more, but is it drastically more? I don't think so. This is why I am just staying patient. I have not given up and I'm waiting. That's it. But I just wanted to make this video talking about the fundamentals of the internet computer. And just to quickly summarize, I am still looking at ICP this year, and I'm going to be making more updates when it comes to the internet computer. But I have not given up ultimately. And I want to say thank you for watching. I hope you all have a very happy New Year's. It's Mali the Captain. And again, thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it.